All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Living Sessions podcast. Got Dustin here. He loves to flex a lot, but I'm really excited to have Dustin on here because he is an online trainer and he's a bodybuilding pro as well in the physique category for natural bodybuilding. He's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to the health and fitness industry. And so really excited because most of the time I get people on for these interviews that fitness is important to them, and it is to Dustin as well. But obviously he's got that one step higher because he's helping people find that fitness is important to them and find aspects of fitness to fit into their life. So without further ado, Dustin, just kind of introduce yourself a little bit more, what you do and everything.
Yeah, appreciate the intro. So my name is Dustin Lewis. I won my pro card in men's physique in a natural league late 2017. And from that, I've learned a lot of ways to help people that don't need to go to that extreme, but there's basically science behind how all this works, and there's so much fluff in the industry. And what I aim to do is bring that science to people at any phase of their fitness journey so that they can apply it and get the results that they're actually looking for. And through that, I've made a lot of friends, connections, like for example, we both live in Greenville, and we just got a workout in and had some grub, and we've been talking for a good bit, so I don't know if we have too much left to talk about, but we're going to try our best. And I think what we want to talk about today is working with coaches and the different aspects of coaches, mentors, personal trainers, things along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty about coaches in general, because most of the time, if you've been following, we usually talk about how fitness has influenced somebody's life and a little bit about people's businesses and what they do, showing that fitness is a essential part of people's lives. But obviously with people like Dustin and I, it's a lot more of an essential part of our life than the average person, if you want to say the average person. So really want to dive into the importance of coaches, what a coach is, difference between online and in-person training, group coaching, all that stuff, kind of break down the different aspects of coaching as a whole, and then they more specifically into certain aspects of that. So but before we go into that, what do you mean by natural bodybuilding? So there's the natural and unnatural, we understand that, but the bodybuilding show, you said natural, but then there's some that may not be natural,
right? And so natural versus unnatural, and a natural league, they have drug testing ramifications. So if you win, you have to immediately go piss and get tested. And since you did say how you usually interview people for like how fitness has improved their life, I will give a little background on that, because it wasn't always like I want to compete or I want to do this. I was a good kid growing up for the most part, and did athletics, and I was never out of shape, but I did get picked on for being skinny, so I wanted to get bigger. I always wanted abs and just to be respected, kind of like a Fight Club, Brad Pitt or Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee type physique, maybe a little bit bigger. But so that was aesthetics. But when I was 23, I got a DWI, and that's when I realized like I wasn't taking care of myself. And that's when I realized like the one thing I did have control over was my body and my mind. And so I did start to approach it at that point like, yes, I want to look a certain way, but it floods over into every area of life.
Oh, yeah.
As far as how you feel, how you perform. I mean, I doubled my income because I had the confidence to go ask for a raise. Like, so many things changed when I started taking care of my body. That being said, what we see, especially today on social media, because there is so much to see, is we don't see necessarily the natural side of things. Mm-hmm. And all these pros and these big guys that we see, 90% of who we see take steroids. It's just a known fact. There's, pros, cons, whatever it is. So when I say natural, I mean leagues that facilitate that, because you competed in the NPC, which is not drug tested, and you felt pretty small up there when in reality, Philip's got 40 pounds on me right now. It's 50 pounds on me. It's ridiculous. And whereas I competed in a natural league where the playing grounds are much more fair. And I think that with social media and everything, it really skews our perception of not only what we're supposed to look like, but like what is possible, how fast things can happen. And so that's when I stepped into a role as a coach, what I want to bring light to is that there is no one way for all. A lot of what we see is very skewed. It's not truth to what can happen naturally unless you use something. And I think that's really important because social media runs the world and it's a big comparison game. And when you have such high standards to compare yourself to, it doesn't matter how much progress you make, you're going to feel like you've done nothing as compared to, these guys that are pros and weigh, 250 pounds, lean as can be. It's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So here to help people do it the right way, realize the right goals, and that's why I chose to compete natural. And will I compete again? I don't know. I would like to, but that's even a whole nother competing. I'm just going to give it to you, is not healthy. In no way, shape, or form is there anything healthy or beneficial about getting that lean. Your testosterone tanks, all your hormones get messed up. I mean, it wreaks havoc on your body, and you really have to have a reason and a why behind it. And yes, you will grow mentally. Absolutely. Your discipline will grow. There are a ton of benefits to reap out of it, but if you're just doing it for ego, it's really something you need to step back and think about more. And so I also like to help facilitate that because I've got guys that, I've competed, they could compete. Okay, let's look at, you're going to do natty or not natty, because I only work with natural athletes. Here's what to expect type deal. Why are you doing this? What do we need to look at? So yeah, a little bit all over the place there, but that's why I said natural, because not even a lot of people know that there are natural leagues, and it's actually something that's actually really getting a lot of traction now. I think when I did the OCB Federation 2 years ago, I think they've probably doubled the amount of shows that they have in a year now, just because it's getting more traction. So that's what
yes, I appreciate you explaining what natural is, and there are people that compete, but they're usually not on that ultra competitive level on NPC that are natural, which I was one of those. Went to NPC because that was the bigger shows, more well known, and I got destroyed. I mean, I was 186 on stage, and especially being natural, that's pretty big.
That's awesome.
Like that, you don't see a lot of guys that are getting closer and closer to 200 naturally on stage.
Under 6 foot.
And I'm 5'10", and so it was an eye opener because I was like, everybody kept saying, "Man, you're big, like you look good." And then I got on stage and I was, eyes were wide open. I'm like, these dudes are huge. And of course, most of them probably were doing something. I won't say all of them, or but some probably were.
League.
It's an untested league. So, but you talked about individualizing those programs and stuff. So I know a lot of people are afraid with coaches, especially online coaches, and with social media. And we see that Shreds scandal a couple years ago that happened, that it's all these cookie cutter diets.
Right.
So how would somebody go about figuring out if a coach is going to give them a cookie cutter diet or not? Like what are some tactics and like maybe questions that they could ask the coach to kind of figure things out?
So when it comes down to working with a coach, obviously you want to work with somebody you like, and you trust. And just looking at a profile or going to their page, there could be a couple red flags. But I would say the best way around that is if they're on social media, they've probably got posts or tags or comments of previous clients. And there's your go-to right there. You go reach out to people that have worked with them or whatnot and ask what it was like, right? That's how you slide under and then see what's going on. But if they have a link to a website and it's under a couple $100 for a custom program, it's probably cookie cutter for the most part. And there's nothing wrong with cookie cutter depending on where you're at in the road. I bought cookie cutter programs just because I wanted to change the pace, but I also know how to manipulate things. Like I don't like that exercise, but I know it's a horizontal push, so let me replace it with something that better suits my body. Yeah. But if you're new to training, or you have a couple years under your belt but you don't know how to program effectively, or don't know enough about volume and intensity, it would be much more beneficial to work with somebody that does, to show you the way to make sure you're staying on track instead of just saying, here you go, do this, and not knowing if you're making progress, not knowing how to track progress, not knowing that progress isn't always visual, that it can be numbers on your sets and your reps. So I would say looking to find former clients, what's the price point? Is there any process where you actually get to communicate and ask questions before you decide to work with somebody? Me as a one-to-one coach, I can't work with everybody. I don't want to work with everybody. Not everybody's committed. Not everybody wants what I can offer. So there's usually a 2-step process. We get on the phone twice. Like, what is it that you want? You know, where are you at? Where do you need to go? And then, okay, cool. Here's what I can do for you, and this is what it would look like. And we go into depth of what it would look like. I don't use cookie cutter or anything because that's not my goal. My goal is to empower people to learn how to do this for themselves for the rest of their lives. So, yeah, I think that, I don't know if you might have any more that you could think of as how to spot if a program's cookie cutter or not, but I would say price point and interview process and former clients.
Yeah, I think that's a great way, finding those, especially the former clients. I think that's
Yes.
going to be a huge one if they've got nobody yet. They're always talking about how they got this client, that client. It's kind of like when people say, oh, everybody's been asking me questions about such and such topic. Let me tell you about it. More than likely, they haven't had everybody. Maybe one person asked and they said, I'm just going to say everybody because,
Right.
let's be honest. Who wants to say, I had one person ask me this question the other day. Let me answer it for them.
Right.
And it's always that same one person. It's probably your sister or your brother or, maybe your mom's asking, she's trying to be your number one fan. But yeah, so really going after those clients. But also, I think a key thing, like you said, if the guy or girl is just super shredded year round and you're not into that, you need to question about that and ask that question. Like you said, you only work with natural clients, and that's something when I had a coach I asked up front. It was, hey, I guess I didn't ask. I said, hey, I only want to do this natural, to make sure that expectation was met up front.
Right.
Because some of these coaches, and it's an easy way to get people to really shred up, is to put them on a bunch of gear or supplements, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And yeah, they shred up, but you've also spent like $2,000 or more on supplementation just to get in shape. Now, obviously, protein, creatine, things like that, pre-workout, that's not the supplementation I'm talking about. I'm
Right.
talking about steroids, talking about HGH, talking about all these.
Tren, Win, all that good stuff.
Exactly, all this stuff that's going to get you real lean and hard, and it's really those supplements that have done a lot of that work. Obviously, you still have to put in that work, but that's done more of the work.
You don't learn anything. That's my issue. It's like you don't learn anything along the way. There's a science to getting shredded. I actually took a course called Shredded by Science, which they changed their name, so I really want to steal it because it's perfect. But you don't learn anything that way. You really don't. Now, granted, steroids don't work on their own. Your diet still has to be right. You still have to train hard. But I would say, being on the results are going to be that much greater. And I don't work with clients who aren't natural, not because I have anything against it, because I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about it.
Yeah.
And maybe everything's the same. You just get better results. But that's not my ball field. If I don't know how to help you, I'm going to be straight up. It's not like, oh, you want to work with me? Here we go. If I don't know how to help you, if I don't think I can help you, we're not working together. And if I know somebody that can or a resource, I'll gladly point you in the right direction because I still want to help you. So I'll point you in the right direction.
And that's actually a great point as well, is if they try and be that number one resource for you on everything and act like they know everything, that's not the right person, because nobody knows everything about every single aspect of nutrition and fitness, stuff like that. For example, I hardly know anything about keto. I know you're supposed to eat a ton of fat and zero carbs. It's like 30 or 50 grams or something like that. No more than that in a day. But that's all I know. So if you want to go on a keto diet, you're going to go to somebody else. And so
Yes.
a good coach is going to refer you to somebody else or say, hey, I don't know that question. Let me get back to you. And another thing, if you're looking for, especially an online coach, if it takes them 3+ days to get back to you, and especially your initial response, then they're probably too busy for you, and you're not going to get that attention you need, especially if you're starting out. It's different if you really know what you're doing, but trying to go to that next level or something. That's a little different, but still, even then, if I was training for a bodybuilding show, I wouldn't want to have a coach that wouldn't get back to me for 3 days after I ask a question, because it was not too late, because you're not going to ruin anything in a week, but it still makes it a lot harder to adjust as you need to.
Especially the closer you get to show day. And there's different reasons to hire a coach. We hire coaches to compete. But you can meet people where they're at. And as you said too, with keto and vegans, I don't work with keto or vegan because I'm not either. And I don't know how to optimize a vegan diet. I wouldn't even pretend to, oh, you're vegan, I'm just going to give you your macros and you need to hit them. When that could work in a sense, if you have question about different food sources, I'm not going to be able to answer that. So finding a coach that suits your needs, that works with people or teaches what you want to learn about. Not just because you're a coach and they look how you want to look, but if you're trying to put on 20 pounds, you need to work with somebody that has proven that they can put 20 pounds on somebody. If you want to get shredded, you need to work with somebody that if you just want to live a better lifestyle, then you need more of a lifestyle coach. That's what you need to look for. And the market is very flooded, and that's why we're looking for those red flags. You know, talking to former clients is really the biggest insight you're going to get when it comes to looking at coaches. But ask questions too, like ask them, and if they're interested and they really do want to help, they'll respond. You know, they will get back to you. They'll tell you what's up. And that being said, I maybe talk about the different kinds of coaches, or you know, personal training versus online. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go next. Is go into the difference between online versus in-person training, besides the obvious one's online and one's in person. You know, so let's dive into in-person training a little bit. What's kind of the benefits to that, and possibly any consequences to that.
So I actually got started in my career in person. I did it for a year, and from the personal trainer aspect, and this doesn't go for everybody, but it was a love-hate for me because it wasn't a 9 to 5. It was a 6 a.m. client with a 8 p.m. boot camp with some cancellations in the middle of the day, and it's just all over the place. But I would say the biggest thing, I would say 90% of trainers are this way, but if you go to any commercial gym and you hire a personal trainer, you are going to get somebody who holds you accountable to show up, sort of. It's still your job to show up, and they might not chew you out if you don't, because you paid them anyway. And they're going to walk you through a workout. And to be honest, I'm not talking shit about the commercial gyms, but half of those trainers don't even know what they're doing. The form I see, even the gym I go to, which I won't say, but the guy that owns the gym, just having people do the most ridiculous things that you would never need to do in an entire lifetime. Anyways, you need to vet your personal trainer. In person, they rarely touch on nutrition. If they do, it's a cookie cutter sheet. Here, get your fruits and your veggies and your protein in. Which, sure, that holds some ground, but they're not there to do anything besides put you through a workout at the gym. That's really what an in-person trainer is. And that being said, for usually what you pay for them, it's pretty good investment. Just to have somebody in the gym showing you what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had any experience with in-person training.
Yeah, so in-person training for me, it's been interesting. You know, again, I see some of those trainers too. I'm like, you're really doing that? And I've even seen a trainer at a gym in the past that was, personal trainer eating McDonald's at the gym. But yeah, he's trying to help people with weight loss, and he was already overweight anyways. So it's like, so you're overweight, you're eating McDonald's, and yet you're trying to tell me to not eat McDonald's and just how you're going to lose weight, even though you're not that way. So
right.
I mean, and that's good a rule of thumb for who you want to hire as well. Not every time, but it's a good rule of thumb that if they look a certain way and you like the way they look, chances are they know how to get you there,
right.
Because they've done it.
Right.
So that's another good rule of thumb. But yeah, if you got a guy that's 600 pounds and he's telling you he's going to help you lose weight, no. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah. So for me, but besides that, I've had the coaches where they're like, just do this, this, and this, and I'm like, hey, this kind of hurts my shoulders. Well, we'll just do it anyways. It's good for you. If a personal trainer is telling you that's not a good thing. They need to work with you and how you react. It's kind of like telling somebody who's got bad knees, hey, we're gonna do squats today, and we're gonna do lunges that are very strenuous.
It's gonna help strengthen your knees.
Yeah, it's gonna strengthen them. Yeah, but it's very strenuous. It just doesn't make sense, and a lot of this can be common sense, but again, for me, I didn't like it because it was more like, hey, this is what you're going to do. And I was trying to go to that next level. So to me, I was, a different kind of client. I wasn't just brand new coming into the gym. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, I was supposed to be doing one-on-one training, but I was getting training while he was training other people at the same time. And he'd be on his phone and all this stuff. So I didn't really get that personal attention that I expected, especially going for a bodybuilding show. Right. So that was my experience with that.
So we did just hit on all the cons of having an in-person trainer.
But like you said, the accountability was great. That that did help, like especially the days that I was just like, dude, I'm just
Yeah,
so
you gotta
tired.
show up. You paid
You
for
know,
it.
he's
You
all
gotta
like,
show
yeah,
up.
I had to show up, and he's all like, you still push me through the workouts, and
Right.
and there was, you know, especially the workouts didn't hurt joints or anything like that. They were great, you know. Like he really pushed me. He's like, no, you still got 5 more. Like
Keep going.
he's all like, oh, he just put more weight on. I'm like, oh, like I don't want to do that. So I mean, he really pushed me in that aspect. So you know, that accountability and just really pushing me past the limit I had mentally were
Absolutely.
huge when
Yeah.
it came to in-person training.
Yeah, and to add to that, especially if you're brand new, as long as you get a good trainer, it is very beneficial to have somebody there to correct you on your form, to show you how to breathe properly. And the thing with a lot of the commercial gyms is just like cookie cutter programs, the trainers are cookie cutter. Anybody, I got my personal training certificate online. Anybody can go do that. Anybody can do that. What comes down to is the in-person experience. So yeah, like you said about trainers, Planet Fitness is great for that. Not to bash on Planet Fitness, I actually have one membership, so I can go when I'm in. I have 3 gym memberships so that I can go wherever I'm at in the country. I can go to a gym. That is a priority to me. But the pros of having one is an in-person trainer. Is that the form, the attention, the correction, like right there on spot, right? The accountability, the push, right? I'd like to say we only tap into like even 75 part. We only tap into 75% of our potential. Like we still leave so much on the table, and working with somebody can really help bring that out. But a lot of those things can be facilitated online as well with some added benefit. So you want to dive into online?
Yeah, and so then the online training, let's go into that. So what are some pros and cons that you see with that?
Let's start with the cons, since we started with the cons of the personal
Yeah.
training. Cons is you don't get the one-on-one, like attention in person. Okay, you don't necessarily get the chewing out if you don't show up at 8 o'clock. What other cons are there?
Well, typically it's kind of like you do a check-in usually once, maybe twice a week. It kind of depends on the coach.
Depends on the coach. Check-ins
You
can be
usually see
varied.
1 or twice a week. Once or twice a week. So they're not going to be able to correct you on things or notice that you've been slacking off. So that accountability doesn't come till like a week later.
Right.
And sometimes you can't tell from 1 week.
Right.
So it could take a little bit longer versus that in person.
Sure.
So having those check-ins less frequently than when you're going in person.
Right.
Definitely a con there.
Right.
And then of course, again, I think we kind of talked about this, but really pushing you in the gym.
Sure.
You are now responsible for pushing yourself in the gym. The coach can't be online and say, "Hey, I saw you didn't do that 10th rep on that
Right.
set." Like,
Right.
he doesn't know. You got to report it to him.
Right.
So having that push as well.
Yeah. If any more cons pop up, I will bring them up.
I mean, online training is really just the way to go, right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be biased or
No.
anything, but I can counter all of that with pros. So, yes, they're not there to look over your shoulder, but like for some of my clients, use an app called Trainer Eyes, and I can see when they've logged a workout. So if they missed a day, like I know. Yeah, do I have to check my computer every day? I do, but like I actually do have a pretty good bird's eye view of my clients. Some coaches vary. For me, my clients, they have 24/7 access to me. Doesn't mean I'll respond within 5 minutes, even though I usually do, but that access can be there. Some coaches do weekly check-ins via Skype, half an hour. Some coaches do weekly check-ins via email. It also depends on the plan. You can pay more for more accountability. You can pay more for more access. You can get one-on-one coaching online. You can be a part of group coaching online. There's so many ways to do it, and everybody does it in different ways. But to keep adding to the pros, depending on the coach, but most coaches online, we're diving into your nutrition, right? We're talking calories, macronutrients, timing, what to eat. When I worked as an in-person trainer, and all the in-person trainers I know, if you get anything like that, it's an additional fee. Like you're paying more, and I guarantee you, because their full-time job is in person, that they don't pay attention like an online coach does. They're not there. They're not there like the online coach is. That being said, you get a ton of resources. You have somebody in your back pocket at all times. If you aren't feeling it, you can reach out. Personal trainer in person is very touch and go. You only see them when you're there. That's the only communication you have that I know of. I don't know any that just are with their clients all the time outside of the gym.
Yeah, you may. I mean, they may text some, but
Sure.
you're not going to get all the videos, for instance. Hey, you have a question about something, and maybe the coach has already had something, so he sends you a quick video. Hey, watch this video. I explained it in here, And now you can go do that on your own time rather than, okay, well, let's try and set up a call that works for the time that we can do, or set up an in-person meeting if you're doing an in-person trainer.
Cut into your personal
Yeah, and then you got to cut into your personal session, which
more.
usually happens, or pay more on top of what you're already investing.
Right.
And then, now it's like you both have to find that time. So it could end up being 2 weeks out because y'all are both so busy.
Right.
Where if it's online, it's like, hey, okay, here, go check out this video. Let me know if you got questions after that, and I'll be glad to answer those.
Absolutely.
But usually, especially when the coach is a lot more experienced, they've got those videos ready to go for you.
Yep.
So that's a huge benefit when it comes to online, that it becomes at your convenience.
Absolutely.
So it definitely is more convenient.
And with the video thing too, is even though you're not there to see, I let all my clients know, and most of them take advantage of it. Send me videos of your sets. You can send me as many videos as you want. I will critique them by the time your check-in comes, because they already did it. They don't need to know right then that day, right? But every Monday evening when I do my client check-ins, if they send me a video, they will get a critique back. And if I need to record a video to show them what they need to change, if I can't do it just in verbal, I will do that. It's great. Like I can offer so much more. I mean, the day and age we live in with technology, I mean, like we can do so much online. You can learn everything you need to learn online. And unless you are just starting out and have no idea how to move your body, like none, there's some really great online trainers out there that can teach you everything you need to know. Like absolutely, hands down. So I think that through cons, pros,
Yeah, I think that's pretty good for that. So now with the group coaching, I know we don't really have a lot of experience with that, so we're not going to dive into as much detail on this, but what do you see the benefits and differences between in-person group coaching and online group coaching?
Regardless, there's a sense of community. I think at our core as human beings, we need connection. Cavemen weren't just like, this is my cave, leave me alone. They were in groups and families and helped take care of each other, and I think we desire that at our core. And I don't think, as far as the online and in-person, the same pros and cons we talked about, I just think there's a communal aspect. Now, if you do it online, you might miss some of the resources that you'd get just with the one-on-one on a coach, versus if you're in a group, it might not be as detailed. If you just want to get on a solid workout 4 times a week and enjoy what you do and be able to kind of chat with some people, like that's a great option too. And I also do know more in-depth group coaching that you still kind of get that one-on-one aspect in, but like I said, it just depends on the coach, what they're offering. Really does just depend. But I think some people love Orange Theory Fitness. Like some people, like they don't have physique goals, they don't want to grow their body, they just want to be in shape, they want to know that they can play with their kids, and that's great. Like there's so many modalities that you need to try these things and figure out kind of what it is, what you really want too, because I can't tell you how many clients, I mean, I do a really good job at mitigating this. Like we set the goal from the beginning and it does not change because this stuff doesn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah.
Like minimum 12, 16 weeks, if not more, to really make changes. So a lot of people think they want one thing and then they flip-flop and they want something else. And if the trainer lets the client keep dictating where they're going, they're never going to get anywhere. So we help hold you accountable to what you said you wanted. Because it's so easy to see, oh, shiny, ooh, I want this, oh, no, nut, I want this squirrel, like, it's just like, it's there's so much out there that we forget what we really want. So having that accountability, I have their clients write out exactly what they want, how it's going to make them feel when they achieve it, this and that, and when they start straying from me, I take their exact words and show it to them, and they're like, yeah, you're right, that is, all right, yeah, we're doing well, yeah, I can see that we're making progress towards this, like, okay, yeah, you're right, let's do that.
For example, that client that we were talking about earlier that you have, that he said he wanted to put on 20 pounds of muscle, and then he started gaining some weight, and he's all like, hey, so you think we start cutting next week?
Yeah.
What? We hadn't even hit that goal you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, hold on.
It happens all the time, especially when you're trying to gain weight. You don't realize the time and the effort and the uncomfortable, like you're going to get uncomfortable. So a lot of things that come into it. But if you can push through that, it's hard. Like I'll even admit, like I've bulked twice and I gave up because I didn't have there was life circumstances around, but had I had a coach in my corner, accountability, or invested in myself, like it would have been, and there was times that I did and it was different, right? Because it's one thing to just let yourself down, but when you declare it to somebody or the public and then you don't, like it really hits your ego a lot harder. And I know we were going to talk about this too, but my very first client ever, I want to go back on this, and I had mentioned like how to spot a cookie cutter program being price point too. My very first client, because a lot of people, we have access to so much, and you can get all these programs for super cheap, like under $50. You can get this arm specialization or lose 20 pounds and whatever. And my very first online client, I hadn't even thought about doing the online thing. It was a buddy from high school. He knew I was a personal trainer. He knew I stayed in shape, and he reached out to me. I think he was living in Texas at the time, and he's like, "Hey man, you still doing training or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You think we could like do something online?" I'm like, "I never even thought about that." Like, yeah, I could like write you a workout and explain macros and kind of get you going. So we did that. And I laugh when I say this, but I charged him $100 for 3 months, and I was scared shitless. Like, is that too much? Like, it's only $33 a month, and I'm thinking about it. When one in person session costs more than $33 freaking dollars.
Yeah.
One in person, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was new to the space. I charge upwards of $1 a minute for my in person coaching sessions, and here I am, not realizing how much. Just to let you guys know, like from a coach's standpoint, like we put so much into what we give you and how we guide you in your results. It's not just like, I'm going to tell you this, this, and this, and you go do it. Anyways, first 3 months goes by. We made some progress falling off. It was so cheap, he was all about it again. Second 3 months go by. Did we make progress? I don't know. We did this for an entire year, okay? And I knew the guy pretty well, and he'd tell me about his weekends and stuff. We're super close. And he was going out on a Saturday night spending more money than he was paying for 3 months of coaching. Now, what does that tell you? That his Saturday nights are more important than his health and fitness. Where your money goes, your attention goes. The more you spend, the more you pay attention. You spend the money on the things in your time that you care about. I don't care if you want to believe me or not, hard truth to swallow. Whatever you spend the most time doing and whatever you spend the most money on is what you value the most in life. So after a year of this, I was getting fed up, and I didn't want to, like, I'm like, dude, like, you're kind of doing what I'm telling you, but not all the time. Like, we're running in freaking circles. Like, you know what to do. You're not doing it. You're going out and getting shit-faced on the weekend. Like, something's got to change. And during that year period, I had started diving a lot into personal development. It had always been a passion of mine, but more so related to fitness. And so a year had rolled by, and I'm like, all right, dude, I'd love to keep working with you. I'm like, but some things are going to have to change. And I 10 times my price. I was like, look, it's gonna be $1,000 for 3 months, which is still relatively cheap, especially compared to in-person training. And he's like, he thought about it for a second. He said, well, what's gonna be different? And I did incorporate a mindset aspect to it, and it wasn't just for nutrition, but life in general, kind of life coaching in a sense of it would relate to his work, his personal life, his relationships, and everything. And luckily, this guy helped boost me to do what I'm doing now. He trusted in me enough to be like, all right, let's do it. And in the next 3 months that we worked together, he got to where he wanted to go. He did everything he wanted to do. He achieved all the results he was looking for in just a 1-3 month period, when over a year he had done nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And week by week, he was like, dude, this is awesome. And it was simply because he was committed. All that switched was, I'm in. Like, I spent good money on this. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. I know what I want. I'm in, and we did the damn thing. And so that being said, like, if you're not going to invest in yourself, or only invest, well, I only want to spend $200 on this or $50 on that, because you'd rather spend that money on clothes or cars or vacations or whatever, that's fine. But just realize, like, that's how much that you're mentally investing. That's how much you're physically investing. That's where you're at with wanting that change. And if you're not ready to step up to the plate, not saying you have to go spend a ton of money, but like, if you really want results, that's what you do. You hold yourself accountable. You put skin in the game. My first business coach, most money I ever spent on anything was $5,000. I about pooped my pants. Like, dude, after hanging up the phone, like, I was shaking. Like, what am I doing? Like, $5,000. I didn't even have $5,000. I went, opened up a credit card, a no interest credit card for a year, put $5,000 on that thing, and I was like, man, I hope I made the right decision. And one of my favorite quotes is, it's not whether the decision is right or wrong. There is no right or wrong, but it's making that decision right. And after I had made that decision, I'm like, I'm going to make this right. And granted, I made that money back within like 2.5 months and continued to make money, and it happened. But had I never stepped up to the plate and invested in myself, now granted, I did my homework on the coach, trusted him, I would have never gotten to where I am now. I wouldn't be doing this podcast with you. I wouldn't have helped the hundreds of clients that I've helped. So, we spend how much money on college education that doesn't get us a job. We spend how much money on junk food. We spend how much money on dining out. That's not aiding our goals. You can dine out smart and cost effectively, and there's ways around that stuff. And when you've kind of lived it like we have, it's great to be able to work with somebody that's not only been where you are, but is where you need to go. And they know that they've hit the road bumps you're going to hit. They've had the mindset setbacks that you're going to encounter. They've had the relational issues with people judging them for, why are you doing that, dude? Or you can't go out tonight or whatever, because that stuff's going to come up. And all it is you shedding the old version of yourself. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Just because you bought a $50 program, nothing's changed. You just bought a program. You have to become that person, and having somebody that's been there, done it, is where you want to go. It's just, it's a mentor, it's a coach, it's the best way. It is a degree in itself. It's running with it, and then that's a lot right there. But I just want you to know, life is short. If you want something, are you all in? And that's facts.
Yeah, and going back to the example of your friend, once he invested enough money that it would hurt for him to spend that money and not do anything with it.
Exactly.
That's when things change. So, if you're kind of on the border and you've been trying year after year after year to try and get to whatever shape it is you're trying to get to, maybe it is time to invest in some coaching, because clearly what you're doing isn't working. I'm not saying you have to do online. You can do in person, but do some investing, because the quickest way to grow is to learn from somebody that's been there before.
Absolutely.
We see this with all the millionaires out there, all the people with these big businesses, even these athletes. They have coaches, and the coaches have
top
coaches.
Pros have coaches. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so if they're doing it, you need to do it as well.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying you have to go one way or the other, but you have to do that and invest that money. And that could be a good tool for you to be willing to spend a little bit more money, because if somebody is going to have that confidence and charge a certain amount. Now, some people, again, just because they charge $20,000 a month for training doesn't mean they're worth $20,000.
You got to vet them, find those customers.
Yes, you have to vet them. But if you're expecting to be able to step on stage with somebody that's charging you $50 a month or $50 for a 12-week program, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there is a happy medium. Yes, there may be a $20,000 coach out there.
Sure.
And he might be amazing, but you might be able to find that same thing with a $1,000 to $3,000 coach as well. So you got to figure out who's the fit for you. Not that they've just gotten the results for their clients, but do they have kind of that same personality? Because we all resonate with certain people, so we have to really find that, whether it's the online or in-person coach.
Absolutely.
So I think it's an investment. Whatever you do, you're investing your time, you're investing your money, so use it wisely.
And to that point, you don't have to invest anything. I taught myself macros, calorie counting. I used a freaking food journal for a year before I even thought about using MyFitnessPal. And I was so resistant to going to MyFitnessPal because I knew how to do everything by hand. I mean, I would calculate my fat, 9 calories per gram. So 43 times 9. And I mean, I would add them right my meal, cottage cheese. Okay, I did that for over a year by hand, taught myself. So if you want something bad enough, you'll do it, right? But at this day and age, we expect instant gratification. We want to learn now. So you can pay for that.
Yeah, pay for it.
The faster you want to learn and the harder you want to implement it, the more you're probably going to have to pay. But not saying you can't do it on your own. But if that's something you've been trying to do on your own for a while and it's not getting you anywhere, then it's time to take the next step. And to conclude on that, I learned more in the 8 months I worked with my coach to prepare for my show. Not saying coaches only prepare for shows, but I'm just saying about diet and how to lose body fat and how to gain strength. I learned more in 8 months under him than I did with 3 different certifications and about 9 years of learning on my own.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of time, 9 years versus 8 months.
When you hire somebody that knows what they're doing, you literally collapse time, and time is our most valuable asset. And if you don't want to spend another year, 2 years, 5 years, another 10 years going backwards or being stuck, you can collapse time by hiring the right person or finding the right coaching mentor, whatever it is. You can collapse time, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I know you mentioned a couple things about like fitness and how it's helped your life, but is there like any last thing maybe if you want to mention how fitness has really helped to maybe inspire the audience to finally take that step or to keep going?
Inspiring story. Sure. One of my first online clients, his name's Derek. He's a grandfather, and he had been running in circles for I don't know how long, 3-4 years, and he lost 33 pounds the first stint of us working together. I think it was over like 6 months, and he was just ecstatic. And he's got kids and a grandkid. Like, it's never too old. And now he just did a whole massing phase for a whole year. He went through the uncomfortable. He put on 30 pounds, but it wasn't all fat. It was quality. He was doing it right this time, nice and slow. And I guess, and now we're starting a cutting phase again. But what I'm saying is, it's never too old. You're never too old to start. The results are possible for anybody, and you just have to. We clicked. He had followed me. I'd answer every single question he had. I'm like, dude, we got this. Like, let's go. And then as far as a recent client I've had who literally fluctuated the same 4 pounds for 6 years. I mentioned this to you. 6 years, stayed exactly the same, was doing 6 to 7 days of high intensity cardio every single day, like going balls to the wall in the gym 5 to 6 days a week, eating 1,700 calories or less, because that's what he thought he had to do to maintain his physique. And long story short, after 16 weeks of working together, we got him down another 10 pounds, which he had never seen in his life. And that was on the same amount of calories that he started at, because we increased his calories back down. Now he's bulking at maintenance is twice what he started at, which means he gets to eat. He's not doing cardio anymore. He's not killing himself in the gym. I've got all these stories, and they might not pertain to some people, and they could pertain to others, but there's myths that are out there that everybody believes, that you have to do all this cardio, that you have to eat so little calories, and you have to be in a deficit forever, and they're not true. Yeah. There's a lot more falsehoods out there than there is truths, and it gets really hard to see through to those truths this day and age online.
Definitely. So there's it's a lot more simple to get in the shape that you want, and so sometimes the coach can really help you out to get through that quicker. Yeah. You know, with your two clients, you talked about years of going through the same rat race
6
essentially,
years.
And then got with a coach and it happened.
Right.
You know, not saying it's just you know, any coach, you know, and so that's awesome. So if you've been thinking about coach being on the edge, you know, take a listen to this again, go through this podcast and see what resonates with you. Make sure you're asking the questions, vetting coaches, whether it's in person or online. And, you know, price point isn't everything, but depending on that price, you're going to kind of know if you're getting a cookie cutter diet or if you're just getting ripped off, whatever. So depending on what you're looking for is what kind of coach you need. But Dustin, if people want to find you, where can they find you at?
Yeah, right now I'm busiest on Instagram, so at Dustin Lewis, LEWIS _. And reach out to us too if you have a program or coach that you're interested in. We can help you vet, or I'd love to talk to people, meet new people. So I'm open to help you figure out which direction you need to go as well. So find me on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so any questions you have, we're both open books to talk about anything.
Sure.
And as always, guys, have a healthy and blessed day.
Cool, man. Pretty good.
Yeah.
You power this off, or
Yeah.
leave it on until something, or?
No, you good?